Welcome to Weather to Watch, the final edition of 2025. I hope you have a great new year tonight. As far as the weather patterns, it's a return to the warmth of Christmas for much of the country, but winter's still hanging on with a vengeance in the Northeast. Lots of snow up there. There is a pattern change at the wait a little bit, but I think it's going to bring wetter weather to areas that could use it. Also, the snow pattern will shift a little bit, and that's reflected in the official January forecast for temperature and precipitation. I'll have that for you coming up as well. Welcome, I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. I'm showing you the visible satellite loop on this Wednesday afternoon. Much of the country is fair but chilly, especially in the central and the southeast and the southern U.S. We have another weather system draping through from the Dakotas into the northeast. That's going to help to fuel more lake effect snows. We'll dive in on that here coming up. Otherwise, it's a pretty quiet pattern. This is mostly cloud cover, not a lot of weather associated with this one, but that part of California will take their turn coming up when the jet stream pattern changes and brings more snows and rains to that area. I'll highlight when that'll be here in a minute. Take a look at the 500 millibar flow, rapid, strong jet stream flow from southern Canada right into the eastern U.S. Big trough of low pressure here, small little short wave right here that's going to help to ignite low pressure at the surface, more winds fetching across the Great Lakes and more lake effect snows. Ridging in the west, get used to that growing and moving eastward again, as it did again with the warmth of last week. If we take a look at the surface isobars in black and the temperature pattern, and it looks like they changed the way they draw a front. I liked it better when they had the actual barbs on there. If anybody from this company is listening. Anyway, there's the cold front right there, another bubble of high pressure moving into the northern plains. And again, it's chilly here in the northeast, but already beginning, this high is already beginning to warm itself quite substantially, and we already see a return flow of warmer air across the southern U.S., and that is something that, a trend that will continue. But at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, the temperature is below zero in parts of North Dakota and northern Minnesota. Meanwhile, the freezing line runs somewhere from northern Indiana through southern Wisconsin into northern Iowa and into southern South Dakota. Again, these folks will experience a much warmer trend of weather coming up. Snow reports over the last 24 hours. The lake effect snow banding is very obvious. Once again, when you see a long finger of high snowfall totals emanating from one of the Great Lakes, that's a sure sign you're talking about lake effect snows. And so just to give you some reference here, Syracuse, New York is right there. So we're talking about 2 feet. I see a 2-foot total there, 24 inches, 26 inches on the northern part of the city, and, you know, 1.5 foot in that area too. So very, very pronounced lake effect snows, and that's going to continue. Winter storm warnings in the sort of pinkish areas here through parts of western New York, both the area from Buffalo southward and also from Syracuse northward. If it's shaded in green, it's a lake effect snow warning, and all that really means is that it's really concentrated snow, really just like I showed you, which only affects a narrow area but could really wallop that narrow area. And it's all about the fetch over the lake, so if the wind establishes itself like this, over these lakes, Ontario and Erie, you get longer fingers of lake effect snow. Just because of the way they're shaped, they tend to produce a lot. But, you know, it just depends on the fetch of the wind and the shape of the lake. But they are quite used to getting it out there. And winter weather advisories where lesser amounts of snow are expected. And this is more in association with that front and low pressure area. If we take the next 72 hours worth of snow totals from the National Weather Service, this is them forecasting what will happen. So if you see that darker red right there, scales on the left, that's indicating 1.5 feet of snow, and that's just south of Buffalo and also on the eastern end of Lake Ontario. But we can zoom in on that to give you better inches here. Zoom in on the inches here. And there's also, from Erie to Buffalo, there's also some enhancement here with terrain that helps with snow totals quite a bit. But you can see the bubbles of 18 inches or more, even what looks to be a 24-inch bubble right there along the southeast shore of Lake Ontario. The general trend, according to the EPS weekly means that started a couple of days ago on Monday and goes through all of this week to Sunday, does show that even though you do expect snows in the west, that's going to shut down for a while. In fact, it's supposed to be snowing in the Cascades and won't until later in this period. But even when that happens, it'll be more focused down here in California. So this is actually reflecting an anomaly. They expect to get snow in the mountains out there and won't get as much. Meanwhile, they expect to get snow, lake effect snows here in the UP of Michigan, and you can again see the telltale signs of those lake effect snow bands there. And this is telling you that basically these are above the means a little bit, so they're a little anomalous for this time of year. That, with 27% of the country covered in snow cover as of this morning, and they're still recovering from some of that snow that fell 4 weeks ago in these areas, but it is starting to melt in Iowa now, where the combined effects of many of those storms was most concentrated. If you look at the snow on the ground, certainly northern Wisconsin winds, the snow belt in the UP of Michigan, hands down a winner, and you can see the lake effect fingers coming out of Erie and Ontario as well. So I mentioned that EPS, that comes out twice a week. So the latest one averages it from Monday the 29th through this coming Sunday. Again, just warm air rising, big bubble of it again taking over, but a really anomalous cold air bubble too. So very cold in New England on average for the next, what's left of this 7-day period, next 5 days, and pretty much way above normal for the western half of the country. And this is reflected in the temperature anomalies here for that same period. Very chilly in Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, Detroit, in much of the New England area. Many major cities there experiencing temperatures on average, much below normal, 15 to 20 degrees maybe below normal in some areas. Meanwhile, the West is up to its warm shenanigans once again, and this is going to keep spreading. And we can take a look at the temperatures, not every day, but every other day or so. So on the first day of the year, Thursday, again, very chilly with Green Bay, a high of only 15, Duluth, a high of only 8. Boston will barely get to freezing on Thursday. Meanwhile, it'll be 73 in Lubbock and warming to 55 here where I live after a very cold period here. And then moving ahead to Saturday, again, this is reflecting the EPS model really, really well. So it shows the cool air shades of green and blue indicating below normal temperatures, and warming through the Great Plains again, and then through Monday, the first day of the work week next week, we're looking at 70s and 60s. In fact, it'll be 55 in Rapid City, very, very warm. And see what's happening in California. We're starting to see the effects of a jet stream change that'll bring cooler air onshore to California beginning on Monday. If you look at the temperature patterns, we'll just do two of these, 6 to 10 day. Again, emphasizing the warm bubble in the southeast, and even through that period, starting to warm in New England a little bit. So chilly at first, but then as we go to Tuesday of next week, it begins to warm a little bit. The west kind of neutral, maybe showing some signs of that jet stream change. And then the warm shifts, if you look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, and that gets us almost into the middle part of January. Warm in the southeast, but notice at least a return to normal temperatures across the northern plains. And keep in mind, it is winter, so normal temperatures are all you need for snowfall. Above normal is probably not going to cut it. But normal temperatures, yeah, it snows normally in the northern plains. And we'll take a look at that here in just a sec. Well, as far as rainfall, now this is actually precipitation, so I have to go and interpret whether this is rain or snow. This is rain. We'll show you what that is. This is rain and snow, depending on the elevation, and this is mostly going to be snow in the early part of the period. If we go way ahead to the end of the week, so this is Friday morning, here's the southeast, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. You got a rain system with low pressure developing here in Texas, and by Saturday morning, that will have moved. It's a weak system to Alabama. Rain, maybe some thunderstorms connected with that, and that's what's going to lay down that one area of rain. So if I detail it, it looks like it from this distance anyway, that through that period, Friday, Saturday, maybe an inch of rain in Atlanta, that area. Northern Georgia, northern Alabama seeing the best chance for heavier rain through that period. And then if we turn our attention out west, again, we go to Saturday morning now. Notice low pressure hugging off the coast, so a moist flow of air off the Pacific into California. So you're talking about, this is precipitation type, so it's rain, of course, and the greens and yellows, and that purple is indicating snow in the northern mountains of California. If we look on Sunday morning, this pattern is very persistent through California. Again, rain's very common in that state during the winter season. And here are some of the totals. Again, this is liquid. So in other words, if you see 9 inches here, for instance, and that's in the elevation elevations in the mountains, that's quite a bit of snow. It probably doesn't convert 10 to 1, but it will be feet and feet and feet of snow as it typically is. And if you look at the anomalous patterns here, this 8 to 14 day temperature outlook is showing, actually I mislabeled that. That's the 6 to 10 day. Look at this highlight here in the mid Mississippi River Valley and parts of the Great Plains. Some hope for some dry conditions that they've had recently, that the pattern may be shifting. High confidence it'll be doing so in Southern California and Arizona. And now this is the 8 to 14 day. With that tendency, just add 2 days to this, or add 4 days to this, and you still have a wetter weather pattern in the Central Plains. And again, that's welcome for many areas. But will any of this possibly be snow? Again, this is precipitation outlook. It doesn't suggest rain or snow. Let's take a look finally at that. So as part of the pattern change, these are rain hazards. This is the longer range forecast. So this goes from the 8th to the 12th. There is a slight risk of heavier precipitation that runs from southeast Missouri through Arkansas right up into the Tennessee River Valley, Ohio River Valley as well, parts of the southeast. It's a slight risk right now, but it's worth watching. And on the flip side of that, so here's the cold side of whatever's happening here. If we look at that hazard, all of a sudden we have a slight risk for heavy snow the 8th through the 14th of January in the more traditional areas of the northern plains. So that suggests we may have one or more cyclones develop in this area and move. But again, it's a long-range forecast, so keep that in mind when you look at this. And this might be just a temporary glitch. Here's what I mean by that, because they issued the January temperature outlook, which looks shockingly like the December outlook, except a little more pronounced. So they're still calling for the gesturing to deliver cold air to the Northeast and the Great Lakes. That suggests the snow machine will continue as long as those lakes remain relatively warm. Of course, with winter pressing on, they get colder and colder, and that effect diminishes a little bit. And the temperature outlook is for above normal readings in the Four Corners area and much of the south. And on the precipitation side, again, suggesting that the pattern will be, if I had to draw a jet stream pattern on this, it would look something like this. If I could get my marker to work like this. So it's delivering cold air to the northeast, moisture into the interior areas of the northwestern U.S., and a little bit dry in Florida and in South Texas. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.